And new this morning, the FBI Director Christopher Wray is expected to issue a major warning to lawmakers that Chinese hackers are preparing to, quote, wreak havoc on U.S. infrastructure. The remarks will be Wray's most direct public warning to date about the threat that Chinese hackers pose to everyday Americans. Joining us right now to talk about this is CNN senior law enforcement analyst and former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe. Good to see you this morning, Andy. So I want to read now part of what we expect to hear from the FBI director this morning. He will tell the House Select Committee on China that, I'm quoting now, China's hackers are positioning on American infrastructure in preparation to wreak havoc and cause real-world harm to American citizens and communities if or when China decides the time has come to strike. I mean, that sounds very ominous. What do you believe specifically that would mean?
Well, it is ominous, Frederica, and I think when the FBI director comes out and makes a statement that clear and that bold, it really needs to be heard loud and clear by the American people, and particularly by the private sector entities that essentially own and operate our cyber infrastructure. He is in a unique position to know this because with his intelligence community partners, they have direct visibility into what Chinese hackers and the Chinese government are doing to really infiltrate themselves into our critical systems. And that's the warning we're getting. So we know that the Chinese have been doing extensive hacking for many years. If you go back 10 years, most of their hacking was always directed at essentially stealing information and stealing technology to benefit their own economy. But this is a very different warning. This is a warning that the Chinese government is actually taking positions inside U.S. critical infrastructure for the purpose of disabling that infrastructure in the event that the United States finds itself in a conflict with China, which, as we know, could happen over any number of issues anytime in the future. So it's a really fundamentally a very different tactical strategic advantage that they're seeking, and one that could really wreak havoc here.
So you just said, if there is, conflict, would that be the precursor, to this kind of cyber attack?
It's we have seen certainly in the current conflict in Ukraine that cyber has become a new and kind of cutting edge tactic that's employed in global conflict in between nation states. So before or commensurate with the initiation of some sort of hostilities, you can use cyber techniques to disable your enemy's ability to respond. So to disable communication networks, to disable critical infrastructure, to hurt the economy or the ability of your enemy to respond to your attack. So shutting off water systems, shutting off fuel pipeline systems. And these are all sorts of attacks we have seen sporadically in the past. So it's likely that an enemy like China, if they were provoked into a conflict with the United States, could use those sort of tactics to basically tie our hands before we're even able to respond.
You mentioned water, you mentioned electricity as some of the infrastructure. Would some of the other critical infrastructure be like banks, healthcare?
Of course. So if you take out major elements of our ability to communicate or to our ability to run computer networks, you can really impact every part of the economy and every part of society. You certainly would want to cripple your adversary's ability to respond financially. So to cut off communication, the ability for banks to trade funds would be something that would set back the economy of the United States immeasurably. We've seen very recently hacks directed at water treatment facilities. I think in December of last year, CNN reported that CISA, the Cyber Security and Infrastructure Security Agency, reported to Congress that somewhere less than 10 separate water treatment facilities had been the subject of cyber attacks around the country. Now we have 150,000 of those sort of systems here in this country. So you can imagine what a concerted, directed, nation-state-led attack might do just to our ability to have things like fresh water. It really have a significant impact on American life.
Really would. And then are these hackers, are they operating with the consent of Beijing, or do the Chinese authorities kind of look the other way? I mean, how were they able to, succeed potentially?
Fred, historically, we have seen a very close, very direct involvement of the Chinese government in hacking activity. There have been cases in which actual officers of the Chinese military have been indicted by the Justice Department for their participation in malicious hacking activity. So it's entirely possible, and I would say likely, that the warning we'll hear from the FBI director today will be talking about hacking campaigns and hacking capability that is controlled by the Chinese government. That's likely military or intelligence employees of the government that are conducting that activity, or it could, in some cases, be criminal hacking groups that are operating under the direction of the Chinese military and the Chinese government.
So we just heard reporting this week that the White House, President Biden and Xi Jinping talked about the 2024 election, that Xi Jinping assured him there would be no interference in that. But then we're talking about testimony today from the FBI director about a cyber, threat from China. What, if anything, can the White House do, or perhaps what has it already done, as the White House, interacts with China, narrowing in on this as well as the 2024 election concerns?
There's always been a bit of a divide between the U.S. and China in terms of these warnings on malicious cyber activity. The sort of cyber activity that the FBI director is going to warn us about today is really more in the traditional nation state seeking military advantage over an adversary sort of focus. And that has traditionally been the sort of thing that it's just assumed hostile, nation state entities, that's what they do against each other, right? You constantly are trying to make yourself stronger and take advantage of your adversary's weaknesses. So I would suspect that this sort of activity is the type of thing that the Chinese would separate from something like election interference or corporate espionage, that sort of thing. This is considered to be literally a line of defense for the Chinese nation. They've clearly spent a great deal of assets, time, and effort to infiltrate into these systems into the United States, and it's likely they will hold on to those positions in the event they need